All right, let's cross live now to SABC presidential reporter Mzwandile Mbeje, who is at Irene on the sidelines of the Lekgotla. A very good morning to Mzwandile. Do tell us and allay any of these conversations that we're having. Is the NEC meeting solely to discuss keeping or removing President Jacob Zuma from office?
Thank you very much, Alicia. Indeed, as you've been saying, the meeting will soon get underway. The NEC Lekgotla, you then have people who have been invited from other structures of government and the alliance partners. But perhaps, Alicia, before we continue with our discussion, I grabbed the First Secretary General of the, General Secretary of the SACP, Mapaila, who is going to be part of the meeting and the discussions inside. So let me start with him so that we get him out of the way, and then we'll continue with our discussion. Thank you very much for allowing us to hijack you, literally. As part of the alliance, you've been invited. Can you share with us what is it that you are going inside to discuss?
The agenda is determined largely by the ANC, but it's the first Lekgotla of the year. Normally we elaborate the January 8 statement into an implementable program that must be taken up by government, and thereafter government ministers will then develop that program and take it to Parliament, in which the President will summarize this program into the State of the Nation address, which then departments will elaborate later on as a government program. Therefore, it's a very, very important meeting today, and also the program that will come out of here, because it's what will be the main emphasis for implementation of the ANC policies and program, which of course, as you know, we in the Alliance are represented in government by the ANC. Therefore, it's a very critical planning meeting for us, and all cadres of the movement know that the January 8 statement is the one that gives direction, we normally call it. So in that way, we are here to make sure that we all are at one in terms of implementation of that particular program, and that's why we are always invited to the Lekgotla programs.
There's this issue relating to the NEC meeting that took place over the past 2 days, and particularly the discussions that happened last night, referring to the issue of President Jacob Zuma. So obviously unconfirmed reports say he was discussed, and it appears there is this decision or this suggestion that perhaps he may need to be asked to step aside at a time yet to be determined. But of course, you as the alliance have to be informed, as is the tradition. So what is your attitude towards that, given your positions as the SACP, for example, and COSATU? You've been very vocal about President Zuma stepping down.
Yes, that's true. We have always said that it is high time that President Zuma should have stepped down. It's not a personal matter. It's a political matter, very political, very organizational, to the extent that we felt that he has donated the national sovereignty of our country. All the sacrifices our people made were donated through him handing over the state capacity and the state direction to a group of individuals, largely the Guptas, and of course there could be many others who are involved in trying to wrestle the power of the state. But to the extent that he allowed this to happen, we really felt that there could have been no better reason for the ANC to remove him from power. They didn't even have to wait for the national conference. But they've taken the long route, which has been a very grueling process that has created lots of damage and lots of divisions inside the movement. They could have simply followed basic policies and principles about the conduct of their cadres and remove President Zuma. So if they've come to that particular conclusion, we will most certainly welcome that decision. We still feel that he shouldn't stay long as president of the country. He should have long resigned, but we can't enforce it on the ANC. We can campaign for him to leave, particularly given that we need to usher in a new era, an era of unity, an era that makes sure that the state is free from corruption, an era that makes sure that all cadres of our movement can confidently, when they walk the streets, have the confidence of the people, because the people of South Africa have always looked up to the ANC as the organization that made the harshest and the greatest of sacrifices for the well-being of this particular country. And for us to see losing the trust of the people in this way, we really felt that it was too long for the ANC to take a decision. And we're not necessarily saying that all problems will be solved because President Zuma would have been removed, but at least it will pave an important way for the restoration of confidence of the people to the ANC.
The issue of unity and inclusivity, so don't you think the removal of President Zuma will bring divisions, because, as you know, he still has a lot of support within the country?
No. It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't come to that. He was definitely his president. He will have support. He's former president of the ANC. He will have support. He will have loyal members, all of that. But all those members would also appreciate that things have changed. With President Mbeje was removed for actually, in comparison with President Zuma, for no charge at all, for apparently not fulfilling or taking instructions from the ANC. These ones, there are serious problems of corruption, of flirting with corrupt individuals that have surrounded him, handing over the state in what is we normally call state capture. We feel that going forward, the unity of the movement is very important, but there should be no unity with corruption. There should be no unity with factionalism, gatekeeping, and all wrongdoing, unethical behavior, misbehavior of leaders, and we protect them in the name of unity. It should be unity of principles, unity of value system of the ANC, unity based on the value system of the constitution of this country, which was written by the blood of the martyrs of the liberation struggle. So that's the unity that we're talking about. So we're not talking about fictitious and cosmetic unity. We're talking about principled unity, and that's what we are here for. That's what we talk when we call about inclusivity. So it's inclusive of every other one that sees unity in that context, that builds, but not unity that actually destroys the movement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mapaila.
Thank you very much.
So there was Soli there. We had just grabbed him. He was about to walk in because he's going to be part of the NEC Lekgotla that is going to be taking place right now. Alicia, we spoke earlier. You had asked a few questions. I can perhaps say a few things before bringing in Professor Lesiba. He is here, but perhaps to deal with some of the questions you had raised, I can confirm to you, as you had said, that last night, indeed, the NEC was meeting, and the issue relating to President Jacob Zuma's stay in office, of course, was discussed, but we understand there was no finality as yet. That's why you see some of the members of the alliance, and I assume that they need to be briefed so that they are all on the same page in terms of what happens. Professor Teffo will join me to try and unpack some of these things because there's been a lot of speculation, and we have seen the statement of the ANC as well talking about the issue relating to the provinces of Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. So those provinces, we can confirm now, have been disbanded. The interim structures will be taking place there to make sure that they oversee the running of those provinces. Just before the elective conference in December, the court nullified both those PECs. But let me bring in the professor here. Prof, there's been a lot going on, particularly the issue relating to President Jacob Zuma. As someone who has an analytical eye, so what are you making of everything that is happening right now?
Look, I think it was in Macbeth. It was Macbeth himself who said, I'm dipped so much in blood that going forward is as tedious as going back. They are in this political conundrum, and they have to find a way out. But it looks like, indeed, they are beginning to accept that the sooner, the better. I'm inclined to believe that, indeed, it's about managing the process, but no longer whether it should or shouldn't happen. And I'm inclined to say the Ramaphosa faction has the numbers. I'm saying this precisely because across the globe, human beings follow power where it goes. I'm informed right now that there are a number of people who have crossed the floor. who yesterday were not with the other faction, but now they realize that power lies with McBuffalo. It's better to ingratiate oneself so that on the day of judgment, he may consider them. Now, given that, and I'm listening to Mapaila speak now, and I'm in concurrence with him, that yes, unity, 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 but it must be principled unity. And at this stage, I don't think they have principled unity, because they appear to be united, yet they are not united. It's always informative to listen and to watch the body language of the Secretary General, Mr. Magashule. He doesn't seem to be in sync with what others think is the unity purported to be obtaining in the organization as of now.
The issue around the provinces that have been disbanded, and now we'll have the new structures taking root. So do you think that will bring more unity, or will pronounce more on divisions, because you may then see people wanting to either reclaim their space or entrench themselves? What is your take on that?
Yes, look, they have to work very hard. Unity, unity, and I really hope they will find that unity one day. But as things stand, they are too factionalized for me to assume that it is going to take place in the next 12 months or so. If anything, the culture of the organization that have come to accept is that they will retreat, get into their own cocoon, and plot for the next five years. So they become an effective opposition within their own and among and against themselves. I would imagine those that have been disbanded, would they gladly, willingly, and readily, voluntarily embrace those that are going to be put in, those that due process at least pronounce that they were the victors? I doubt, but I hope and wish that they could find it within themselves to embrace each other. For whatever happens to the organization, good or bad, impacts on the people of the Republic of South Africa.
As someone who looks at the political developments with an analytical eye, as I said before, if you were to give an advice to the ANC, because it does appear to be now a trend that once the new administration takes over, so the president is not allowed to finish his term. So it has happened with President Mbeje, so it looks set to happen with President Zuma. So if nothing changes, I'm sure nothing will stop the situation from repeating itself with President Cyril Ramaphosa later on. So how should the ANC address this issue once and for all?
Yeah, look, it's not an impossible thing to do, that the two can live together. It's just that once you offend your own policies and procedure, and at the heart of it is all about resources and position oneself in order to amass as much as one can possibly do, then you'll find these factions, and then you'll appreciate that people will do everything possible, even shedding blood, in order to advance their interests. But I'm saying it is not impossible. Tate Motlanthe was the president of the country, while Zuma was the president of the organization. And even in the current situation, it could happen. Unfortunately for them, the current head of state is too tainted, has lost the credibility and the respect of the nation. And the longer you keep him, the more damage he does to the organization, and indeed, by extension, to the country. So much as I would advise that they could live side by side, but it's not the ideal thing, because in the main, the people are not happy. And indeed, there might be an electoral cost come 2019. Therefore, I'm saying, yes, perhaps it is time indeed. Either he falls on his sword, or they face themselves and say, yes, in the interest of the organization, say, we advise you to step down.
But if you were to advise them to remedy the situation so that the gap is not too huge, so what would you say to them?
Look, the advice is almost contradictory. Keeping him has a cost, right? And then taking him away also has a cost. Because I'm sure unlike President Mbeje, I'm not sure if he wouldn't dare them and say, I'm not stepping down, and the consequence will be dire. And I think the Zulu nationalism from the other side of the river also is something not to take for granted. And indeed, even in the NEC, there are those that still go with them. Hence, I said when I said it, it's a political conundrum that reminds me of Macbeth, who once said, I'm so dipped in blood that going forward is as bad or as tedious as going backward. But something must give in, something must be done. Whatever the consequences, like the Ramaphosa said, let's manage it, but let it happen.
But don't you think perhaps the correct thing to do for the ANC going forward, maybe not necessarily now, is to try and align their election of leadership with the country's elections?
Yes, I can hear that's really the direction in which you are driving. But granted that is the ideal thing, and that is doable. They can do that. There is no problem with that, right? They can do that. It is within themselves. It is their constitution. They can change that. But perhaps even assuming that indeed they are going to be in charge of the country for as many years as they please. But I'm saying it is the here and now that we are dealing with. Going forward, yes, remember the point you are making was mooted in the past, right? And I think Supra Mahumapelo was the champion of that. Why didn't they do it 2-3 years ago? It's always because of factional interest. We stand to lose while we are almost at the verge of capturing the Victor's Cup. Why do you want to extend it? There was that proposal, it made sense, but there were those who opposed it within the NEC, of not any other party, but of the ANC itself. But yes, I agree with you, that may be the right thing to do. But in the circumstances, at present, they have this problem.
Prof, in the event that perhaps the NEC finally confirms that they've decided that the president must recuse himself, who do you see take over? Will it be a situation similar to what happened when President Mbeje was recalled, or in this instance it would be different?
My view, and then I was confronted with this question, I think, yesterday, and so it won't affect the so-called two-term for Ramaphosa, because people think that if we were to come in, if he comes in, and which is what I would propose, that he steps in and finish the term of the current president, that doesn't affect his 2 terms should it happen that way, right? So I would say the ideal for me is neither Sisulu nor Van der Merwe or de Klerk. Let it be Ramaphosa, because for now there is sufficient goodwill within the organization and in the country and beyond. And I would say zero in, take advantage of that, because we seem to have a chance to benefit all of us if that were to be the case. Because they need him for now, given the political capital he seemed to carry, to enable them at least to get a 50+1 in 2019. Because right now the situation is very fluid, and it is him who really can deliver a victory come 2019.
Thank you very much, Prof. That is Professor Lesiba Teffo there, speaking to us outside the St. George's, where the ANC NEC is meeting. Actually, they have been meeting for the past 2 days. Today, they are continuing with their meeting, but it's now a Lekgotla, NEC Lekgotla, so which means they've invited other deployees from government and from the alliance partners to talk about a range of issues. One of the topical issues we know is that issue that relates to the future of President Zuma, which we understand was discussed last night, and it appears the top 6 has been tasked with the responsibility of engaging the president on his future. So we'll watch, we'll be here, we'll be giving you the updates, and we expect perhaps the ANC to inform us formally about everything that has been happening here once the 4-day ANC Lekgotla has been concluded, perhaps on Monday.
All right, that is our presidential reporter, Mzwandile Mbeje, and he was speaking to political analyst Professor Lesiba Teffo, and he was joining us live from Irene, Pretoria. He was joined earlier on by the SACP's Mapaila.